Joel Klatt, Fox Sports, the Joel Klatt podcast, and he's doing the Big Noon Conversations, not just with Nick Saban, a variety of coaches. Deion Sanders is one I saw, and we wanted to talk to Klatt first about Nick Saban and then about Deion and some of the other conversations he'll be dropping until we get ready for football. Klatt, man, welcome back to the show. Thank you for your time.
What's
I know
up?
It's a busy time for you.
Listen, yeah, we're actually doing a little construction on, like my podcast set in my
Right.
in the house. So I had to find another. I was scrambling. I told you guys I was 5 minutes late because I was like, I don't know where I'm going to do this. So, anyways, we found a spot. Hope you guys are doing well and you're enjoying the summer.
We are. I'm looking forward to Sunday on Fox, being down at Protective Stadium for a little USFL playoff game. That should be exciting.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. One more time for the Stallions. So you get a chance to come and speak to Nick Saban for a while. And I just wonder, from the first time you ever talked to Nick Saban to the Nick Saban conversation you just had, and I just had, I know relationships grow and, maybe the moods are different. What was your first, or the impression you had of Nick Saban when you were leaving this trip to Tuscaloosa?
I was mulling over the job offer is what I was doing.
Yeah, tell us behind the scenes what happened there.
Yeah, no problem. Well, first of all, it kind of all played out on the episode, so I would encourage you guys to, or your listeners, to go and listen to it. Basically, let me answer the Jim's question first. So the first interaction I ever had with him was not that dissimilar from a lot of guys who I would say, like, they don't, how do I say this? They don't need me, right? Like Nick, there are coaches out there, and I'm not saying this, as like me personally, but like need someone in my position to kind of like be on their side. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
It behooves them. Nick doesn't need that. Like it doesn't matter to him what I say. Well, it might matter. It might make him grumpy, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So because of that, my interactions before this with him, I don't cover SEC. I did one of their games. It was very matter of fact and professional, and just kind of like I could have been any other guy. I went down to Tuscaloosa in the spring last year just because I knew we were going to have the Texas game. I'd never covered Alabama in person. And so the backstory of this is that I went to a spring practice for the sole purpose of just shaking his hand in person and just saying like, hey, I wanted to come here in person just so that, like I'm going to make an effort. I want to make an effort to cover your team, your program the right way in this one game. So I flew down there, went to practice. There was recruits around, and it was, hey, thanks, and we'll see you. And he looked at me and during that interaction, and he was like, so why are you here? And I was like, I just came to say hello. And he looked at me like I was crazy, and he goes, well, hello. And then I said, like, we're going to have your game against Texas. It'll be on Fox. And he was like, oh, yeah, what time is that going to kick? And I was like, 11 a.m. local. And he just grumbled and walked away.
Not the answer you wanted.
So that was it. That was it. That was the entire interaction. And then we get to the game week. And obviously, we meet with him on Friday in the hotel. And I didn't want to waste his time. There was a bunch of answers that he gave in that meeting that I wanted to expand on. And I just wanted to get him out of that meeting as quickly as possible, because that's all any coach really wants on Friday. They don't want to talk to us, right? And all these broadcasters, they think that this meeting is so important. And I've sat in meetings and these guys opine about like, hey, remember this? And the coaches are like, get me out of here. So my objective is always like, hey, man, here's my 4 really specific questions. Answer them as quickly and as short as you want to, and like, beat it. Like, let's get out of here and not do this. So I think he appreciated that. And then I go back down and schedule this conversation. And, it went from, okay, I'll give you 29 minutes and 30 seconds to you've got 19 minutes and 15 seconds. Like, let's go. And so and I just start rolling off, and you'll notice it's a quick episode. But during the episode, I pushed back just briefly. He gave a bit of he took a shot at broadcasters a little bit, kind of like you guys, nothing matters to you. You just sit there. And I pushed back on him a little bit and told him what the downside is of my industry, which is I love this thing. I still love and long for the camaraderie and the wins and losses in the locker room and all of those things. And I give my all in this profession to go out there and cover the game the best way I possibly can. And then the game's over and I literally just like go sit on an airplane and I'm in like, 3B and some guy next to me is like, so you headed home? And I'm like, yeah, I'm heading home. What are you going to get? Chicken or steak tonight? And it's just very like there's a big letdown on Saturday nights. And I was telling him that. And then we started in on do you know what it takes? He asked me. And I'm like, yes, specifically, which is why I'm not a coach. Cause I valued, not that he doesn't, but I valued like my sons over that. So a long answer to tell you, our relationship has gone from why are you here to I think a little bit more of a respect of like, hey, listen, we both love this sport. We both care for the sport. And that's where at the end he kind of threw out, he's like, hey, we got a job for you if you're ready, which of course I'm not. Why would I work for Nick Saban? My life's way better than trying to go down and work for Nick Saban. But that's how it all went. Long answer, but it kind of like morphed through the last year.
No, but Klatt, I mean, sticking with that, I mean, do you think just based on the coaches you've been around, like Nick Saban, and the older you get, your acumen continues to develop in football, the more you watch today's game, do you think, and you're a very dedicated guy, do you think you could coach a successful program?
Yeah, absolutely. There's not a doubt, and a lot of that is just like self-belief. I always thought I was going to be a coach. It still nags at me that I'm not. My father was a coach. He was in Vietnam. First of all, my father, he was a Marine, first lieutenant in the Marine Corps, and was in Vietnam, came back, and it was his time in the Marines leading young men. He's 22, 23, and he's an officer, and he's leading 18, 19-year-olds in war. And it was that experience that led him to be like, hey, man, I don't want to be a banker when I got home. He wanted to be a teacher and a coach and continue to invest in the lives of 18, 19-year-old young men. So he became a coach and was for 30 years. I loved football my entire life. I played every sport, but this has always been my first love. I fell in love with college football. I love the intricacies of the sport. I love the philosophy of the sport. I love leadership, all of those things, so it still somewhat pains me. Now, having said that, you have to give up a significant amount and the sacrifices that these guys make, and more specifically their families make for their career, is profound. And so, I decided a long time ago that like, okay, this is probably not going to be the route that I go, but there have been plenty of times when I've been, this close to jumping back in. And I think everybody in this industry that, well, not everyone, those of us that really dive into the football, and I think you guys know, like, that really get it and know it and talk about it. I think it's always in the back of our head. But I'm certainly happy with where I'm at. It's a great question, but yes, I've thought about it, countless times.
Well, your dream job would probably be your alma mater, Colorado. You had an opportunity much like
they
Saban.
Don't have a natural recruiting base. It's still about wins and losses.
Yeah, but you could instill some of these philosophies. You coach those 2 stars up to 5 stars. But you had an opportunity to sit down and much like you did with Nick Saban, with Deion Sanders. And look, Deion's never, ever short of confidence. But what do you feel on his coaching confidence and where he believes he can take your former program?
Oh, I truly believe that he thinks he can go to the top, like he can go to the national championship game. I really believe that. This guy does not fake it. People think that it's all like show and everything. Man, he believes like deep in his soul that first in himself that he can do it. And he had a great answer in our interview. He said, listen, because I asked him, I was like, why Colorado? There were places that he could have gone and even for more money. And I know that to be a fact. And he chose Colorado, and he said, because they needed me. I'm a need to be needed type of guy is what he said, which was a great answer. And I really believe he's going to have success. Now listen, I'm an alum. I love the place. I was a 6-year-old in the North Stands, falling in love with college football. And my dad took me there, in the mid 1980s, guys, watching the old Oklahoma teams with Barry Switzer and Brian Bosworth, right? Like that's where I fell in love with the sport. I watched the Buffalo run around that field, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing of all time. So I love the program. So just take this with a grain of salt. I believe Colorado is going to go to the playoff with Deion Sanders at some point. I know that sounds insane, and there's people probably laughing, but it's like, I believe it. Look at who he's recruiting. Look at the landscape of where we're going with the 12-team playoff. I think he's gonna. I mean, TCU just went to the national championship in a 4-team playoff.
Right.
So I don't know when. Certainly not going to be next year. Although, don't tell him that. But I think that I think it's gonna work.
I know you love when you take on a project like this, the need to be needed, and then Saban talks to you about the pursuit is better than the capture. Did you find in these Big Noon conversations? Do you find some common DNA between these guys?
Oh yeah.
What are they?
There's an uncommon drive that is common amongst the elites in college football, and probably in every industry. There is a clarity of process that every one of these guys have. They have a very clear roadmap and a very clear destination. My old coach, Gary Barnett, he used to always say every single first team meeting of the year, he said, listen, we got to know who we are to know where we're going. And we got to know where we're going before we can ever know who we are. And so like this specificity and clarity of purpose, of destination, and then the clarity of roadmap, of process of how to get there. That's what links all these guys, whether it's the commissioners, because I sat down with Greg Sankey as well, and that interview is going to be coming up. He sat with me, by the way, for an hour in Birmingham. It was a phenomenal conversation. Clarity of direction, clarity of roadmap of how that process is going to. I think that's the tie between all these guys, because everybody's style is different. Everyone is driving these roads a little bit differently and in different cars, but they have a clarity of destination and roadmap that I think is uncommon, in particular in today's day and age, when all of us are distracted. Probably 90% of our lives are just lives. We are inundated with distraction, and these guys put aside distractions and they chase after this very clear destination with a very clear purpose.
I said yesterday, Klatt, that I kept both of my kids a year behind, where selfishly I could have them in the house a year later.
Yeah, you bet. And I think it's a good call.
Well, Austin Simmons has flipped his commitment from Florida to Ole Miss. He's reclassifying to 2023 class, so he's going to be 17. He will not be of legal drinking age when he graduates Ole Miss if he went a full 4 years. I don't understand. Like, high school is just such a fun time of growth and memories. And then college is the same thing. I just don't get how parents are allowing their kids to do this.
Yeah. I don't love this trend. I actually really liked the trend that was prior to this, and still is going on to this 8+. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. It's like a lot of kids that are elite athletes in middle school will take a gap year in 8th grade, and then they'll go into high school, and it allows them to get ahead from high school credit perspective. So it does a couple of things. It allows them to mature one more year. It allows them to get just a little bit ahead, maybe a semester ahead in terms of high school. Therefore, they're more mature when they leave, and they can leave and participate in spring ball in the spring of their, senior year of high school. I'm with you. Listen, I think that in general, our society has really stolen childhood away from children, and we've pressed upon them more serious conversations and topics, generally speaking. And I believe that we do that in athletics as well. And we put this level of importance on specialization far too early. And they're not allowed to go compete and have fun and find joy in their sport first. Because I will tell you this about elite level athletics. And I'm talking about not just getting to college, but excelling in college and after. People have no idea the level of commitment and the level of sacrifice that it takes to succeed at those levels. And if you don't truly love that craft, and I mean have a deep, burning passion for it, you will burn out, period. Because if you're seeking anything other than the love and joy that comes from the competition within that sport, it ain't happening. So if you're chasing, whether it's, social media accolades or everything that comes with being an athlete, it's always going to fall short. And the specialization at a young age is forcing kids into these universes where they're so self-absorbed and all they want to do and talk about is like that scholarship and what I'm getting and what I'm doing and how many followers I'm having. And what we're losing within this specialization and within this social media age is these players finding joy and a true passion for their sport before they get into this environment in which they're going to have to commit 10,000 hours, the Gladwellian kind of theory of excellence, to go after and chase it at the highest level. I know that's, I don't know, maybe that didn't answer your question or not, but I don't love that trend.
My goal when we had Joel Klatt on, oftentimes when you're promoting something like the interview with Nick Saban and Deion Sanders, people in our position try to get the milk without buying the cow.
Yeah.
Hopefully we were able to get you interested in going to those interviews and not giving away anything in the interview. So go there. Will you get the Joel Klatt podcast, Fox Sports, all the time? Hopefully you're coming to Birmingham this Sunday. You're in town for?
I am. Yeah. Yes, I will be in town. I'll be in town. Maybe we can do dinner on Saturday.
Yeah, 6 p.m. Protective Stadium. You watch it on Fox as the Stallions try to go back to the championship game. Thank you for your time, and thank you for these interviews. It's a great way to count down to the season.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for the season. I can't wait to talk with you guys more. It's going to be a great season, and I really appreciate you, promoting this series. It was one of the most fun things that I've ever done, to be honest with you, is sit with these guys from all walks of college football and talk about the sport globally. So basically every Monday this summer, we're going to have a new big name. It was Saban, obviously. We'll have Greg Sankey. We'll have Ryan Day. We'll have Tony Petitti, the new Big Ten commissioner, Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, Chip Kelly. Like, there's a lot of these coming, and I think that you'll find them interesting.
Oh, you mean Ryan Day on the hot seat at 45-6? You talked to him?
Give me a break.
Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane?
Beat Michigan.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Unbelievable.
Joel Klatt, one of a kind, man. We appreciate him so much. Thanks for being with us.